This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm Phil McKinney. On March 25th, 2015, Harvard Business Review released an article titled, "Why Group Brainstorming is a Waste of Time." The article's author, Thomas Chmara-Premysic, I'm sorry if I get that pronounced wrong, closes out the article with a quote that brainstorming is a placebo in the talent management cabinet believed to work in spite of the clear absence of evidence. So go ahead, schedule that brainstorming meeting. Just don't expect it to accomplish much other than making your team feel good. End of quote. Now, needless to say, this is a major shot across the bow for brainstorming. Tomas is a associate professor, I believe, at Harvard, focusing on teams. But he makes some pretty bold claims, again, that it's a placebo, just making you feel good, but don't expect any output. Now, if you dig into this article, and believe me, this article shook up the innovation community when it first came out, and I just didn't pay it a whole lot of attention. I've had a little bit of time to be getting caught up on my reading and email, so I went back through and dug through this article. And there are some major assumptions on which this article is based that are flat out, in my opinion, not true. The first being that there is only one way to have a brainstorm, which is based on a group coming together and just randomly generating ideas. Thomas's perception of group brainstorming is put 10 of your best people into a room, give them a very ambiguous problem, like hurry up and come up with a product idea, and then let it turn into a free-for-all with everybody talking and nudging and trying to outdo each other, and then see what the output is. The second being, in his assumptions, is that an individual can generate better ideas as a solo innovator. Thomas takes the position that solo ideation is the only way to generate ideas. Now, as I read this article, even though this article came out in March of 2015, I can only assume that Thomas is not familiar with what I call next-gen ideation. Or if you prefer, you can call it brainstorming. I prefer to call it ideation. So next-gen ideation. In next-gen ideation, we use a combination of individual ideation, which is great for idea generation, with group ideation, which is great for expanding and improving ideas. The result is disruptive ideas that cannot be achieved by yourself or solely by a group activity. It is the best of both worlds. And that is what we're going to talk about today. How to use both individual ideation and group ideation to generate disruptive ideas that will have high impact innovations. When I'm facilitating an ideation session, I structure it around 4 stages. One is creating a well-researched and clear problem statement. And I cannot underemphasize the importance of that clear, well-researched problem statement. So that's number 1. You have to have that. Number 2, individual ideation followed by a team grouping exercise. And I'll explain what I mean by that here in a second. And number 3, group ideation. It's what I refer to sometimes as plussing the best ideas. How do you take ideas and actually make them 2 times better, 5 times better, 10 times better? And then the 4th stage is ranking. Now, for today's show, we're going to focus on number 2, which is individual ideation, and number 3, group ideation. I've covered number 1, problem statements, and the number 4, ranking in past shows. So hop on over to killerinnovations.com, just search for the past shows using the search bar in the upper right-hand corner. And in both cases, I have included more in-depth articles in my book. You can go over and read those chapters over at beyondtheobvious.com. Again, just use the search bar in the upper right-hand corner. So let's kick this off. Let's talk about individual ideation. So when kicking off individual ideation, you need to ensure that the mechanics, the basics are in place. One, and this may sound silly, make sure everyone has a nice big stack of yellow stickies. Now, do they have to be yellow? No. They can be blue, pink, whatever. And lots of sharpies. Because in this exercise, we're going to ask them to write one idea per sticky, few words, but we want them to be incomplete thoughts. Number 3 in the mechanics is you need to make sure people participating in this effort, that there's going to be an expectation of time. You're going to commit a certain amount of time, and that there will be a minimum of ideas expected for each participant to contribute. It's what we refer to as the idea quota. So, for instance, you could set the effort to be 30 minutes long, and you expect everybody to submit 25 unique ideas. Now, what I mean by unique ideas is not unique amongst the team, but unique in the ideas that individual's coming up with. Because when you set an idea quota, people will try to find a way to hit the 25, but not really generate new ideas. So a unique idea is we're going to make the wheel round as one idea, and we're going to use solar power to propel the vehicle. That's a second idea. Non-unique ideas is we're going to make the wheel red, and then we're going to make the wheel blue. Those are not unique ideas. So you want 25 unique ideas. The idea quota is absolutely key. Why? What I have found is when you set the idea quota, the first third of the ideas, pretty simple. Next third, a little bit harder. The last third, really hard. So if you had, let's say, set the idea quota to 30 ideas, first 10 easy, middle 10 a little bit harder, the last 10 really hard. And where do you think the best ideas come from? That last third. Now, as part of the mechanics also is making sure we understand that there is no editing. No idea is too crazy, not too outlandish. The other is that there will be no talking. This is not a group activity. Everybody is just silent. They understand the problem statement. They know the expectation they have that's been placed upon them as far as so many ideas within a certain time window. And you're asking them to not to talk amongst themselves. Let's just crank out as many Post-it notes as possible. Write legibly, write big. This is an important one. You'll see why later on in today's show. Now, on the Post-it notes, one of the biggest challenges I've seen is need to have a reasonable amount of detail. So, for instance, 2 little details having a Post-it note that just says free Wi-Fi, or faster purchasing, or do not outsource. There's not enough detail. A better level of detail is free community Wi-Fi using personal credentials, or eliminate levels of approval to reduce red tape and speed up the process. Or number 3, don't use outsourced resources who don't know full information and become a new bottleneck. Now, once you've set the mechanics, what the expectation is, how much time, the number of ideas, no talking, write big, write legibly, give enough detail, then you just sit everybody down and start the clock. 30 minutes. I would set your schedule to allow for 60 minutes, but make it 30 minutes, but tell participants they have 30 minutes. At the end of the time, see how many of them have hit their idea quota. If a number of them haven't, then extend the clock and keep going. You need to ensure that nearly everyone needs to hit their idea quota. This isn't a time box exercise. You're not going to say 30 minutes and we're done. That's why I said, set the expectation with them saying we're going to take 30 minutes, generate as many ideas as you can. In the back of your mind, you've created a 60-minute window so that you can extend the time later on to make sure that everybody hits their idea quota. And again, if they haven't, then extend the clock and keep going. You need to ensure that nearly everybody does hit the quota. And here's the other important insight. At the end of this exercise, once everybody's hit the idea quota, let them take a break before the next exercise. At least a 30-minute break. The brain needs to recharge, needs to refresh, needs to be ready to take on the next step on this multi-part effort that we're describing in today's show. So in the next segment, we're going to go through showing a grouping step, which is required before group ideation. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Now that everyone has their individual ideas in front of them, each person should take turns and walk up to a flip chart and place each of their stickies on the flip chart and read what they wrote. This is not dissertation time, but they should have given enough information on the sticky in order to just read it and have everybody else on their team be able to get it. Now, as you go through that, everybody goes through and puts all their stickies up, and then the next person should do the same. Now, if they have an idea that is the same or nearly the same, they should place their ideas next to the idea already on the flip chart. This is what we call grouping. You're grouping common, overlapping, duplicative ideas. Now, this is not a bad thing. Look, you're going to bring together 8 to 10 people, and you're going to be looking at the same problem statement. Odds are you're going to have a fair amount of overlapping ideas. May not be exactly identical, but they're going at the problem in such a way that you can logically start to group these together. Now, once everyone has shared all their ideas, the team should step back and look at the flip chart. It's actually pretty amazing when you do this, when you take the step back and you look now that you have all the ideas on this flip chart. Does it have to be a flip chart? No. In some of our conference rooms, we have big, huge whiteboards. We wipe down clean up the whiteboard, and then we use the whiteboard as the stickies, where we place the stickies for ideas that we're working on. But once you've got them grouped, taking a step back, then you kind of see, some trends. The size of the groups can be interesting. That might be giving you some level of thoughts. The number of groups, if you have lots of groups with very little overlap, that's kind of an interesting view of how diverse the set of ideas are. If you only have 3 groups and everything falls into 3 groups, that could tell you something completely different. Maybe not enough diversity in the ideation team. Or maybe a poorly written problem statement, which was steering people to a very specific answer. So then what I will do is when I look at these groups, I'm trying to think about what is that group telling me. So we refer to these sometimes as themes around the groups, right? You'll see them kind of grouping. You read the ideas. They kind of are all similar. So what I will do is sometimes I will circle the group and I'll have the team come up with a name for the group of ideas that are the same or nearly the same. And that becomes an important kind of clumping together of the ideas. Now, to give you an idea of how I have done this in the past, years ago, I'm trying to remember when it was, it's got to be 2010, 2011, I recorded a video of a grouping exercise I facilitated for a workshop for the U.S. Department of Education. You can find it over on my YouTube channel. Just search for Phil McKinney, and it's Phil McKinney with no space, just like all my social media handles. Just search for Phil McKinney on YouTube, and go through it, and you can see, you can find the video and the grouping for the U.S. Department of Education, and you can watch that. And it's just a time-lapsed video of grouping, putting the Post-it notes up, circling them, and naming them, and you can just see how I have done that. Next, once we've got the grouping done, what we want to do is we want to see if there are any wow ideas. Now, what do I mean by wow ideas? I'm talking about ideas that generate a wow response, surprise, big, disruptive, unexpected, game-changing response when you read it. Now, how do we select the wow ideas? What we do is we hand out to each person on the team 4 sticky dots. So these are the little, the round dots with different colors. What I tend to do is I give each person has their own color. So if you have a 5-person team, someone gets blue, green, red, yellow, orange, whatever. But each person should have their own color. Why should they have their own color? So people can remember who or what they voted for. It also allows you to see that everyone has placed all of their dots. Now, here are the rules for this exercise. Again, no talking. And 2, you must place all 4 of your dots. You place your dots on a specific idea, not a group. So even though the ideas have been grouped, you're looking for the idea in the group. It's okay to place more than 1 dot per idea. You could put all 4 of your dots. If you think one idea is just a huge wow, you could put all 4 of your dots on that idea. Do not overthink it. Place the dot and move on. You're trying to see if that something just really resonates with you. You don't overanalyze about how easy this would be to implement. This is not the time. It's just the response from the idea. And the last point, and you're going to think this is funny, but it's a problem every workshop we do not move other people's dots. You would think that would be logical, but it's not. For this exercise, you're going to give them 10 minutes. You're time boxing this. You're going to force them to move quickly. So 10 minutes, place all 4 of your dots on the idea that gives you the wow response. Don't overthink it, and do not move other people's dots. And then go. Let them have at it. At the end of that exercise, you now have everyone's individual ideas on a flip chart. You've got a grouping of everybody's ideas into similar overlapping ideas. And now you've marked ideas with the dots that generated the biggest wow response. Now, we're making pretty good progress. And some people may at this point say, okay, great. We now have the best ideas. That's the ideas that should go in and we should begin working on. No. I call what you've done so far is coming up with the prototype ideas. Individual ideation is great for volume. It's great for lots of ideas. And now you've got some of these ideas reinforced because you've had a team of individuals do individual ideation. But those are still prototype ideas. And look, some people on your team, if you've done a good job of putting together good diversity of people with different backgrounds, some technical, some non-technical, some younger, some older, men, women, ethnicity, life experiences. If you've done a good job with diversity, you should be in good shape, but we've only just begun. So in the next step, we're going to take a look at the wow and the other ideas on the flip chart and see if we can build upon them. I call this plussing an idea. Can you take an idea and make it 2 times better? Or what would it take to make it 5 times better or 10 times better? So take the prototype ideas that you've identified so far, and in the next segment, we're going to talk about group ideation and how to take an idea and make it multiple times better. And we're going to shoot for that 10 times better. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back and continue this walkthrough of next generation ideation. As I've said many times, innovation is a team sport, and that applies to ideation. Now, what we have has the benefit of individual ideation so far today. Where does the team part come in? The benefit of a group is when we build on each other's ideas. So this next exercise emphasizes looking at individual ideas and asking how to make them 2 times, 5 times, or even 10 times better. So here are the ground rules that I use for group ideation. Step 1, one at a time, meaning each individual person in the team chooses someone else's idea, not their own idea, but somebody else's idea from the flip chart. And then they ideate on it, thinking out loud. How do I make this idea 2 times better, 5 times better, 10 times better? How do I plus it? How do I build upon it? It's not to be critical. It's not to say, well, this idea will not work. That's not what we're trying to do. This exercise, you're taking this idea and say, here, I love this idea. We could do this and. We can do this plus this. We can do this and this. And it would make it so much better. Let ideas trigger ideas. It's about building upon, develop, expanding each other's ideas. Because everybody brings different expertise, different background. Again, this is not negative to say, pulling an idea off and saying, well, this won't work because it's technically not feasible. That is not the purpose here. Taking an idea that you're excited about and that you've got an idea to build upon. Everybody in the team has to build upon somebody else's idea. You don't get an out. You can't sit back and let, 3 chatties on the team drive it. Everybody has to participate. Keeping it fast-paced. And step 6, no evaluation. So the exercise is 1, build on, develop each other's ideas by select one idea you are excited about that is not yours. You can use the wow or the dot voting possibly as a guide. Take turns after you've ideated on the idea that you are most excited about, letting other people even build on and add on to that idea. So you peel one off and you say, hey, this Acme idea is really great and we can do this. And somebody else may say, something, if we do that, we could also do this. And you build upon it and you build it up. Add new ideas. The stickies on the flip chart are not the final. While you're ideating and you're coming up with more ideas, fill out another sticky and put it up on the flip chart. You're actually building more ideas onto the flip chart. And keep those ideas grouped as you go. If you're adding something and it goes into an obvious group that's already there, put it onto that group. This exercise should take about 25 minutes. You don't need 4 hours for this. 25 minutes sometimes will feel a little squeezed. If you need to, you can expand it. But a team that has done this multiple times should actually be able to move pretty quickly. And then the next step is to rank the groups you have come up with. We are not going to cover ranking here, as I've covered it in more depth in the past. It is important, though, that you rank before you dismiss the team. Do not fall into the trap of thinking you can rank later. Oh, I've got the flip charts. I'll take a picture of them, or I'll roll them up and take them back to my desk, and I'll make a list of the groups, and I'll send those out, and everybody can rank, tomorrow, whatever. Do not fall into that trap. It needs to be done in the moment when everything is fresh. Okay? So again, we do ideation, individual and group ideation. Then we do ranking, but we do that all in one effort, all in one setting, all at one time. So again, rank before you dismiss anybody. So you've got these ideas, you've individual ideas, you did the dot voting to get the wow, you've now done group ideation to improve those, and now you're going to go into ranking. And there's a lot of different ways you can do the ranking. You can do ranking by group, right? So if you've got 25 groups up there, you can take the naming that everybody's done in their groups, and you can put that on the list, and you do the ranking of the groups of ideas. You can do ranking by individual ideas. Ranking by individual ideas can be a little tough because you could easily end up with a couple of hundred unique ideas on a flip chart. It's kind of hard given the nuances of each one in order to be able to rank them. So I would actually suggest, after completing the group ideation, is to take those groups and rank the groups. And then based on the ranking, which ones came out with the top score, capture all of the stickies in that group as kind of the starting basis for the team, whichever team is going to run with that idea, to have something to understand why or what were the feeding ideas that made this group so important and that it got such a high ranking. Okay, so that would be my suggestion. Now, you can learn more about ranking in the past shows. You can head over to killinnovations.com and you can use the search bar in the upper right, or you can read the chapter on idea ranking from my book over at beyondtheobvious.com. The digital versions of the chapters are over there at Beyond the Obvious. They're free of charge. No, you don't have to pay anything. And again, you can use the search bar up in the upper right-hand corner over on Beyond the Obvious, and you can read the chapter on ranking. So how does this process work where Thomas's article said it fails, right? So Thomas's article said group ideation just doesn't work. It's a placebo. Do it if you want to feel good, but don't expect anything. Well, for one, this is not just a group exercise as Thomas describes it. Two, you get the benefit of individual ideation, which is great at generating raw ideas. And number three, you get the benefit of group ideation, which is great when building on each other's ideas, leveraging the diverse experiences of the groups. Now, what have I seen as the benefit of this approach? Assuming you have well-researched and well-written problem statement, the quantity of ideas is greatly increased. I typically see 50% or more ideas than any other approach used. 50% more ideas. But more than that, then the quality of the ideas is significantly improved when you combine individual ideation and group ideation into one. And when the ideas are put through a well-structured ranking process, the top 2 to 3% of ideas will be standout ideas that have greatly benefited from this next-gen approach. Typically, the best groups, the best ideas are the ones that benefited from the individual ideation and then the team exercise of grouping them together. And then when the team came back and plus those ideas, improved those ideas, tried to make them 10 times better, the groups that tend to get to the higher score are the ones that had benefited from both sets of exercises. So you're asking the question is, why should you try this? You've tried brainstorming in the past. It didn't work really that well. Why should you try it? Well, for one, what I just explained is the next gen process. It is trusted and used by thousands of organizations and governments around the world. It's the one that I've taught literally for decades. So why don't you give it a try? Now, I hope you found today's show helpful as you think through how to improve your team's approach to ideation, or if you prefer, your organization may call it brainstorming. I would love to hear the results if you try this inside your team or your organization. Now, if you need help in setting up a test to see if this will work in your organization, hop on over to disruptiveideation.com. That's right, disruptiveideation.com, and click the button to find out more information. Just put in your contact info, and someone will reach out to help you think through how to test this new approach, this next generation approach inside your organization. Again, that's disruptiveideation.com. Don't go anywhere. We have a new 5 minutes to new ideas coming up in the next segment. You will not want to miss it. Also want to remind you that 5 minutes to new ideas is a standalone podcast. So if you just want to catch and go back and refresh on previous episodes or segments of the 5 minutes, you can now do that. It's available on iHeart, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. So don't go anywhere. We've got this new segment of 5 minutes. We'll be right back after this short break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
Back in the early days of this show, I would share what I called a killer question in each episode. These questions were designed to be used in your personal, team, or organization's innovation efforts. Now, based on feedback from listeners just like you, we've decided to bring it back with some improvements. Each episode of the Killer Innovations has a segment that I'm now calling 5 Minutes to New Ideas. It's designed for the creative mind looking for that next great idea. Each episode will challenge you to think differently about yourself, your business, and your products and services by asking unique, funny, and sometimes crazy questions. These questions are designed to force you to look beyond the obvious and to uncover ideas and opportunities you never before considered. So, get out your notebook and be ready to uncover that game-changing idea. Here is 5 Minutes to New Ideas.
I find it interesting that we usually get from other people exactly what we expect of them. If we are looking for friendship, we will likely find it. If your attitude is that of indifference, we will get indifference. And if we are looking for a fight, we will in all likelihood find ourselves in the middle of a fight. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude has on me. When it comes to success, attitude is more important than what happened in the past, more than your education, more than money, more than circumstances, and more than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than giftedness or skill. Attitude will make or break a team and an entire organization. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. And once we make that choice, we need to recognize that our attitude not only impacts us, but will also lift or drag down others that we will engage with every day. Can attitude really have that much impact on our success? Yes. An article in a leading research publication describes how a researcher tested for the importance of attitude. In this test, a psychologist is seated at a desk. There's a knock on his door. The psychologist says, "Come on in." Student enters. The psychologist says, "Sit down. I am going to read you a set of instructions. I'm not permitted to say anything that is not in the instructions, nor can I answer any instructions about this experiment. Okay?" The student is then given the test. After the student has completed the test and left the office, there is another knock on the door. The psychologist says the exact same words to a second student. The only difference this time is he smiles as he says the words. He smiles in a friendly fashion. The only difference between the two episodes is the smile. Now, will the smile affect the results of the experiment? Yes. It not only can, but does. In the laboratory, in the classroom, and everywhere else in life. All other things being equal, the student who receives his instructions with a friendly smile will do better on the test than he would without the smile. The smile indicates that all is well and that the experimenter expects the student to perform satisfactorily, without any trouble. The student will live up to the expectations. He will fulfill the prophecy. Without a smile, the situation becomes more tense. The serious expression on the part of the experimenter carries a certain foreboding, a lack of confidence in the student's ability to perform in a satisfactory manner. The student will not perform as well under this circumstance. These tests, carefully conducted and measured, indicates the tremendous importance of attitude. Our attitude towards others tells them what we expect from them, and they will give us what we expect. They will fulfill the prophecy. We do this with ourselves too. This is why those who say, "Oh, I'll never be able to do that," or "with my luck, this whole thing will end up in failure," are unnecessarily handicapping themselves. Expecting to fail, they will increase their chances of failure. The parent or spouse who keeps repeating to their family that they never can do anything right, or who continually criticizes and magnifies mistakes, is setting the stage for a family member's failure in life. William James said it, that is the attitude at the beginning of a difficult task that will more than anything else to determine the outcome. That is why the manager or coach of a baseball team or a football team is so important. The right kind of coach can make a great team using ordinary athletes. The team will do what the coach expects them to do. This same impact from attitude applies to innovation. When an innovation leader projects an attitude of success, it sets the expectation that the teams will be successful in delivering innovations that will lead to high-impact products and services. One way to set this expectation is to craft a BHAG, a bold, hairy, audacious goal. The best BHAG I've ever heard is when President John F. Kennedy shared the BHAG that before the end of the decade, we will deliver a man to the moon and return him home safely. Now, he had no idea how this could be done, but he was convinced that it could and should be done and projected an attitude of success. It was a rallying cry that pulled people together to deliver on the expectation that was set before them. Seldom does an individual or a team exceed their own expectations. So what are your expectations? Aim high. Now have the attitude that goes with that expectation. I'm Phil McKinney, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join in. If you have any comments or suggestions, drop me a note at phil@killerinnovations.com. Now, the reason I started this show back in 2005 was to pay back my early mentor. My first mentor, Bob Davis, invested an immense amount of time in training and coaching me, which had a major impact on my career. When I went back and asked him how I could pay him back, he laughed and said I couldn't. I had to pay it forward. If I could ask for a favor, could you help me pay it forward? How? 1, by giving us a rating wherever you get your podcast, as that helps spread the word. And 2, by telling others about the show. If you want to be part of the conversation between the shows, I hang out in the Innovators community on Slack. The Innovators community is a private community of vetted innovators who help each other succeed. Check it out at theinnovators.community. This episode of Killer Innovations was produced by the Innovators Network. You can find the show notes and the entire show catalog going back to 2005 at killerinnovations.com. I'll talk to you next week, and in the meantime, go out and change the world with your killer innovation. Bye-bye.